So I've come across this video of Logitech's mouse software options plus, and every little animation was smooth except for this small section where you click on these tabs. So I decided to recreate this and make it a smooth transition. And this is what we will be making, and I decided to make the transition a hover-based transition. I think it makes the experience a bit more fun and interactive because of the instant feedback of moving your mouse instead of just clicking. So we will start off with an M abbreviation which adds the basic HTML elements, and then we will add a container div which will hold the text and the illustrations. So to add them, we will use M again to write our elements quicker. We will have two classes, text and text-$, which will number the classes for us as we multiply it 4 times. And inside each of those 4 classes, we will have an SVG and a div with the text-text class. And then let's go ahead and type in buttons, point and scroll, flow, and settings in the text-text divs. And now let's replace these default SVGs with the actual SVGs. These will be in the description. Go ahead and copy them, or you can add your own illustrations if you wish to do so. And we will go ahead and hide them. And then we will create the overlay div, which will contain 2 more divs, overlay 1 and overlay 2. First one will be for the color, and the second one will be used to make the text turn white. And then lastly, we will add at the front a div with the class CG, which stands for container grid, and inside we will have 4 divs to match the 4 buttons we created. And then we will go up here to the head tag and we will link our style sheet and our script, which we will take a look at later. And we will go ahead and defer the script. And lastly, we will go to Google Fonts and select the entire Poppins family. We will copy this section and then paste it over here in the head tag section. This will basically let us use the Poppins font as long as the user is connected to the internet. And we're done with HTML, so we'll go to our CSS and we will start by setting all our elements to have a box sizing of border box. And we will also set padding and margin to 0. And we do so by using the HTML tag and the asterisk symbol to select all elements. Then we will go to the body and add Poppins as the font family. And we will go ahead and add a font weight of bold. And we will also go ahead and set the font size to 1.6 rem. And we will also add a position of relative, a display of grid, and we will set place content to center. And lastly, we will be adding height to 100 viewport height and a background color of white. Continuing from there, we will add the .container div and set position to relative, display grid, and align items to center. Afterwards, we will add grid template rows and set it to repeat 1fr 4 times. And we will also set background color to white again. And now we will use CSS nesting, so we'll go ahead and select our .text div and add the display of grid and set grid autoflow to column. Then next we will add a gap of 1 rem. We will go ahead and set align items to center, and then we will add a position of relative, and we will also place content to start. And lastly, we will do padding 1.5 rem and 1 rem. Now the illustrations are gone because they don't have any size set to them, and the grid takes the minimum space needed. So using CSS nesting, we will do and SVG, and we will set the height to 175%. And now we have everything in the container set. However, if we go back to the container and do a border of 1 pixel solid red, notice how point and scroll is very close to the edge on the right. This means the purple overlay will be very disproportionate, which we don't want. So to avoid this, we will select .text2, .text-text, which selects point and scroll, and we will add a padding right of 1 rem. And as you can see, it looks a bit better. We will come back here later, so I will add this comment quickly and also remove the border because we don't need it anymore. We're finished with the container for now, so let's move on to the overlay. We will add position absolute, a height of calc 100% divided by 4, and then we will close this and do -1 rem. And let's also do a background color of red so we can see it. But we will also need to add a width of 50%, Then we will add a pointer event of none, display grid, then place content to center. Next, we will add a transition top, as we will use this attribute to move the overlay. Set it to 0.2 seconds, and for the easing motion, we will use a cubic Bezier of 0.7 or 0.31. We will copy all of that and do the same with the width attribute. And next, we will select both divs by doing not that, we will do and div, and we will do border radius of 10 pixels and set background color to yellow so we can see it. Then we will set position absolute, do top 50%, left 50%, translate -50% to center it, then width of 100% and a height of 0. Next, we have to transition the height, so we can actually just copy the transition from above and change the top to height. And now if we do height 100%, we can see what the overlay will kind of look like. So let's go ahead and remove the background colors and move on to overlay -1. We will begin by giving it a background color of #76A61C, and we will give it a Z index of 0. And then for overlay 2, we will have a background color of white and a Z index of 1. And lastly, we will set mixed blend mode to difference. However, as you can see, the illustrations and text are not showing. So what we have to do is go back to the comment I left earlier and do and svg, comma, and .text - text. And we will set the index for these to 1 as well. So basically what we've essentially done is we've set overlay 1 to be in the back by setting it to Z index 0, and the illustrations and text along with overlay 2 to be at the front with Z index 1. So now that we're done with the overlay and the container, we can hide them and move on to CG, and we will quickly add a background color of red so we can easily see it. Then we will do position absolute top 50% and translate 0 -50%. A width of 100 and a display of grid. Then we will do GTR for grid template rows and do calc 50 dvh -5.4375 rem. Then we will repeat twice of 5.4375 rem, and then the same calc of 50 dvh -5.4375 rem. So basically 5.4375 rem is the height of our button elements. So CG1 is 50% of the viewport height minus one of the buttons. Then CG2 and CG3 are both the button height, and CG4 is the same as CG1. As you can see, when we inspect this, we get 87 pixels, and if we divide it by 16, we get 5.4375 rem. Okay, now let's change the height of the overlay to 0, so we can set it to be 100% when we hover instead. So we will do .text hover tilde.overlay div, and then do height 100%, and there we go. Now let's comment out the background color of red, and next we will have .text1 hover tilde.overlay comma .cg has CG1 hover. This is basically when we hover on the first text and the first CG1. So then we do tilde.container.overlay. And then we will set top to 0.5 rem and a width of 66%. When we hovered before, the overlay appeared in the center, but now when we hover on the side where CG1 would be and then over the text, the position of the overlay is always in the right spot. However, if we remove the CG line, as soon as we hover off the element, the overlay moves to the center. And we don't want that, so that's really the purpose of the CG divs. And if we bring the line back, you can see that as long as we're in the CG1 area, the overlay stays on the first button, except for when we go below it. So now we will do the same, but for the second element, so change it to .text2 and CG2, and we will set the width to 100% and top to calc 25% plus 0.5 rem. Let's remove the second percentage, and now both elements work. And now let's do the same to the rest. So let's change this to 4 and this to 3, and we will do calc 50% and 75%, and for the width we will do 53% and 67%. And now we're pretty much done. As you can see, it looks completed, but there's a few things that we have to change because this is what it looks like on Chrome and this is what it looks like on Firefox. So to fix this, there's two ways. First, you can go to Firefox and go to about:config and search for layout.css.nesting and double click on it to enable it, and also search for layout.css.hasSelector and double click that to enable it as well. But it still doesn't look the same. As you can see, the illustrations are stacked along with the text. So what we have to do next is target Firefox only. And to do that, we do add-mos-document, then URL-prefix, and then inside we will select .text and give it a gap of 6 rem instead. And then we also have to take all of .text out of the .container nesting. Seems like the experimentative nesting from Firefox also reacts differently to the Chrome version. Now, we also have to make sure that this works on smaller devices. We will be using media queries since this is essentially the whole website. However, if you add this on the side of your website, a container query will be better, and I suggest you research that so it's better for your case. So we will do add media in brackets with less than 360 pixels for now, and then do .cg, .container and change the font size to 60%. And if we inspect this, seems like we have to do 380 pixels instead. And let's see what that looks like. 380 pixels seems to be the correct amount. And you can add more media queries if you want, but nobody's going to have a screen this thin, so it should be fine. If you don't want to rely on the about:config flags, then you will have to get rid of the nesting in CSS, and with JavaScript we will add event listeners to detect when the mouse hovers over the buttons, and when that happens it will add a class to overlay, and this class will move overlay in the right position when we hover. And this is it. Let me know things or animations you want me to recreate. You can DM me on IG with your examples. Don't forget to like and sub, and I'll see you in the next one.